Evening, folks. Today is the 1st of April 2020. This is an article from the Daily Mail. Dissident Media will be live streaming every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on D Live. I'll post a link to my channel over there. I did a stream last night and I've uploaded that to BitChute. I'll also put a link to that in the description below. I'll also put a link to this article in the Daily Mail in the description box as well. Okay. A documentary showing a Chinese virologist catching wild bats in mountains have fueled a conspiracy theory which suggests that the novel coronavirus may have originated in Wuhan's Disease Control Authority. The 7-minute film features the centre's researcher Tian Yunhu, I'm probably pronouncing his name incorrectly, but anyway, who has visited dozens of caves in Hubei province to capture the flying mammal. It has sparked a fresh round of speculation over the origin of the coronavirus, with some people again suggesting that the pandemic could be a man-made crisis. That's the documentary there, but I don't want to show it here on YouTube because I'd probably get a copyright strike. Other rumours have blamed the global outbreak on the Wuhan Institute of Virology or the US troops. A number of versions allege that it could be a bioweapon engineered either by China or the United States. Experts have dismissed such hypotheses, calling them, quote, not credible, unquote, and accusing them of creating, quote, anxiety, unquote. One US-based medical professor told Mail Online that the fact Chinese as well as American researchers have isolated similar viruses is, quote, a far cry from making and releasing, unquote, the novel coronavirus. The exact source of the new coronavirus, known as SARS-CoV-2, remains unknown. Scientists suspect that it originated in bats, snakes, pangolins or some other wild animal. Chinese health authorities have previously claimed that humans likely caught the pathogen from animals sold as food at a food market in Wuhan. The pandemic has so far killed more than 42,300 people and infected around 860,000 worldwide. The documentary in question, titled, quote, Youth in the Wild, unquote, Invisible Defender, is part of a series which introduces the work of young Chinese scientists. It was produced by China Science Communication, a website run by the China Association for Science and Technology. The episode was released in December, a few weeks before the outbreak emerged in Wuhan. It follows the life of Mr. Tan, who spends days on end roaming wet and dark caverns to capture bats for his research work. The 40-year-old father of two is the Associate Chief Technician of the Department of Disinfection and Pest Control of the Wuhan Municipal Center for Disease Control and Prevention. He said in the film, quote, I work in the field of virus sample collection and classification, and I am a defender of an invisible defense line, unquote. The video depicts how Mr. Tian and his colleague explored one cave and captured the nocturnal animals there while donning full body protective suits. He added, quote, among all known creatures, bats carry various viruses. One can find most viruses responsible for human diseases in them, unquote. He confessed that he often felt scared during such expeditions, which could stretch on for days. He explained, quote, I can feel the fear. the fear of infections and the fear of getting lost. Because of the fear, I take every step extremely cautiously. The more scared I feel, the more care I take in executing every detail, because the process of you finding the viruses is also when you can be exposed to them the easiest, unquote. The researcher has visited dozens of undeveloped caves in Hubei and studied more than 300 virus vectors in the past 10 years or so, according to the film. He concluded, quote, I hope these virus samples will only be preserved for scientific research and will never be used in real life, unquote. Mr. Tian's confession has led some observers to consider him as a key figure closely associated with the origin of the coronavirus. One article from the Washington Times claimed that the film showed Mr. Tian and his co-workers, quote, engaged in casual handling of bats containing deadly viruses, unquote. The US-based website cited a report by Wuhan Evening News in 2017 which described how Mr. Tian had come into contact with bat urine once after forgetting to wear a protective suit. It connected the event with SARS-CoV-2 as it wrote, quote, to avoid contracting a disease, he self-quarantined for 14 days, the same recommended period for people exposed to the new COVID-19 strain, unquote. COVID-19 is the name of the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. In the original Chinese report, which was also published by China's state news agency, the incident was used to demonstrate the risks of Mr. Tian's job. It said that Mr. Tian would not be able to find medicine had he been infected in the line of duty. One anonymous US politician expressed his concern about Mr. Tian's role to the Washington Times. The unnamed State Department official said, quote, he lives and works at Wuhan CDC, a few hundred yards away from the Hunan wet market. He among the small team in Wuhan that has contributed to China's obsession in recent years with the virus hunting and research, unquote. It is widely believed that the coronavirus pandemic first emerged in the Wuhan seafood wholesale market. The once popular marketplace is situated about 700 metres from Wuhan CDC. It was shut in January in the wake of the epidemic. The latest argument about the origin of the coronavirus comes after another conspiracy theory proposed the Wuhan Institute of Virology as its birthplace. The lab opened in November 2018 and is classified as P4, the highest level in biosafety. Part of its research focuses on different strains of coronavirus, according to previous reports. One expert has firmly rejected such allegations. Bat coronaviruses resembling SARS and the new SARS-CoV-2 has been isolated by many groups of legitimate scientists, including the Wuhan Lab and plenty of US investigators. This is a far cry from making and releasing the new virus, Dr. Gerald Kush, a Boston-based professor, told Mail Online. He said, quote, a conspiracy theory never cares about the truth, it just cares about creating doubt and anxiety. Times of crisis are times of anxiety, and it is easier to explain the appearance of an aberration like SARS-CoV-2 as the result of an act of deliberation or incompetence of a laboratory than it is to admit to the fact that nature and evolution, assisted by environmental factors and human intrusions into environmental ecosystems, results in viral evolution, unquote. Dr. Kush, Professor of Medicine and International Health at Boston University School of Medicine and Public Health, stressed that no release of viruses from a high-level lab, such as the one in Wuhan, quote, has ever happened, unquote. Doubtful. He defended his peers in the Chinese city as he said, quote, the Wuhan Lab is designed to the highest standards with redundant safety systems and the highest level of training. Many of its research faculty trained at a similar laboratory in Galveston, Texas, so we know the Wuhan team is as qualified as the Texas group. This means the assertion of a leak, rather than being highly likely, instead is highly unlikely, unquote. Chinese authorities have repeatedly denied the allegation that the virus could have come from the Wuhan lab. Shi Zhenghai, director of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, said in February, quote, the 2019 novel coronavirus is nature's punishment for humans, unquote, or quote, uncivilized life habits. Mr. Shi said he used his life to guarantee the virus has no relation with the lab, unquote. Mr. Shi urged the Chinese authorities to launch an official investigation into the matter. She told Chinese news outlet Kalson, conspiracy theorists don't believe in science. I hope our country's professional departments can come to investigate and prove our innocence. Dr. Hu Boon, a Singapore-based international relations expert, the emergence of the conspiracy theories reflect a fundamental skepticism towards the Chinese government. Well, no surprises there. Dr. Hu, assistant professor with the China program at the St. Rajatam School of International Studies, told Mail Online, quote, there has always been an underlying kind of suspicion and distrust towards China and in particular the Chinese Communist Party for many years, unquote. Quote, the way the Chinese control the press and their own media is a direct contrast to the free and liberal media in the West. Well, that's a bit of a joke, isn't it? So much fake news. But anyway, and even if there is good information coming out of China, people won't necessarily trust, or they will take it with a pinch of salt and say whatever comes out is directly controlled by the communist government. The whole line of argument is about the way information and propaganda is being handled in China, unquote. He considered the Wuhan virus theories, quote, not credible, unquote. Unless you have concrete scientific evidence or scientists working in this area feel strongly about this topic and the scientific community come out to support them, they are not credible, unquote. Okay, all the links I mentioned at the start of the stream, I'll post them all below in the description box. Okay.